Join us for an enlightening experience where you will gain a deeper understanding of the purpose and essence of opening your eyes. This is your chance to enhance self-awareness and personal growth with a shift in perception that provides a fresh outlook on life. Embrace the journey from consciousness to superconsciousness by Barrett. At Bioactivator, we are driven by a profound commitment to assist humanity in connecting with its deepest purpose. Our mission is to catalyze a transformative journey towards a self-realization and collective guardianship, harnessing the potent force of cosmic energy, our organic Wi-Fi. Through Bioactivator's innovative approach, we aim to awaken a new paradigm of planetary independence, where individuals and societies flourish in harmony with universal laws. Our ethos, deeply rooted in the principles of do no harm and respecting the freedom of others, guides our every endeavor. We envision a future where an open source galactic society thrives, embodying these values in every aspect of life. Join us in this evolutionary journey as we unlock the potential of humanity and pave the way for a harmonious, natural law-based galactic community. Become a part of this movement towards a universally connected and conscious world. Your journey with Bioactivator starts now.
So here we are again, and we have our beautiful soul brother, Rick Jewers. Peace and love. Welcome to the Bioactivator studio. So we'll be covering an interesting topic today. It's called the evolution of consciousness in this ascension. We can put that up in a second. Here we are. As before, you remember we were just presenting some questions because Rick, you posted on the 28th of February on Facebook an article which is once again phenomenal. So what we will do after I read your post, we'll go through a series of questions which you get the chance to put your beautiful answers to. So here it is. Welcome, Rick. So if I may take the opportunity to go through the article. Here goes. So here we are. This is what you posted, Brother Rick, on the 28th of February. I like how Lisa Renee simply refers to the phases of consciousness in relation to the ascension. The three main phases are service to self, a realization of phase to find purpose, reason and direction, and service to others, which kicks in as the third phase. The service to self phase involves the inner work and mastery of the fear spectrum that empowers one through the embodiment of the highest virtues, actions, responses, reactions, thoughts, and practices. As the work is mastered, it lifts the veil incrementally to a higher consciousness. This higher consciousness then begins to perspective and read reality from a higher place, which does not contain the blocking fear element. Then the individual sees the first level of concrete higher truth. The realization phase is where the soul desires more of the truth, and it embarks upon that part of the process of phase two. At this level, the last level of the restricted lower ego must be worked upon. The lower ego aspect associated with this phase that can be tricky is that you made it to this higher level. And anything said to you that does not resonate must be from the lower density consciousness. It needs to be understood at this level that truth evolves and evolves you into higher consciousness. And just because something may not resonate now, it may in the future. It is important to keep an open minded and neutral as you enter this realm of storylines. You find your divine orientation, direction, and alignment much quicker at this level by keeping your evaluations and your discernment open to evolving rather than thinking your judgment is concrete and constant. In phase three, you now have the essential attributes to work towards unity, and the focus becomes oriented to service to others. This outward purveyance continued by you instills further trust and advancement of the consciousness through confirmations resulting from this practice. As doubts and separation themes are mastered, more consciousness keys are unlocked within the individual, propelling them on their divine course and reason. They are here on the planet at this time, at this phase, and the consciousness realizes they truly are a co creator here with many other co creators to transition this reality in unison with each other and the one common goal finish the mission and go home to the first R&R pit stop on this journey, heaven on earth. Of course, I only touched on the simplicity of the phases. I did not delve into the intricacies of these phases, for they involve almost all of the uh, uniqueness of the consciousness creations that become beliefs. I like to keep it simple by assisting ones by saying you are a spark of the omnipotent prime creator. Trust that and keep your sights on your purity and empowerment, always connected to God, prime creator, and let nothing sway, dissuade, or separate you from the simple way and the unity with your other sisters and brothers that are on the same absolute trail home. Well, thank you very much for that, Rick. That's pretty awesome information you've laid out to the to the planet. Um, yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. Um, did you want to add
Yeah,
anything?
you
Do you want to say anything to that? Give you some um, space for you to add something before we get into the questions, or because we've got five juicy questions.
yeah, not really, Barrett. We got a little bit of lag here, but that is fine, and I
Okay.
know how to compensate for that. But
Okay.
having said this, yeah, I saw some wording in the post, and it's because putting through certain grammar proper instruments, and it changes the wording a little bit. But nevertheless, as you said, the message gets through there with what this is. Before we begin, what I like to say is I mentioned Lisa Renee, and she has what you call the Ascension glossary. And there is good information in that as well. But importantly, with everything, all information, including what I give at any given time, it evolves because we are evolving with the consciousness. And having said this, this is why it's so important for everyone to be neutral in the moment and do but not be fixated on a concrete truth because truth keeps changing as we go higher. I also wish to say that I cater, if you will, to all levels of consciousness as per my divine allegation upon the planet. And my delegation of what I do and what I'm here for. So what ones will find is my content will vary because it's attuned for different levels of consciousness at certain times. And concurrently, at any given time or simultaneously, there are more than one threads and themes of consciousness that are playing out. And, it is quite a fascinating network with consciousness. And when we look at consciousness overall, it's an energetic information stream. So this is why it becomes important for one to know this, to be able also to navigate through the levels of consciousness and these information streams. Because each information stream, the higher you go up, it begins to change. And what we are doing is we are leaving a fourth dimensional frequency information stream completely, going into a fifth dimensional information stream while we are still in these physical vessels. Now, with different information streams, to keep this simple, different physics applies as well. And this is why one needs to be open and not constant, not to, what's not constant, what's the word? Not to restrict yourself, if you will, to certain beliefs. And most importantly, any beliefs that limit or disempower the self, these should be left aside. You need to know, as I said in the last of the post, that you are a spark of Prime Creator. You are connected directly to that, meaning that you also are omnipotent and invincible to the degree that you consciously know and accept this, and to the degree that you consciously realize what it is. So you are actually, everyone is in a divine boot camp of training here to come into the higher levels of consciousness. And if you will, the direction upon the planet is already here in various ways to facilitate, if you will, the super consciousness, but it's also the Christ consciousness and the ascension. So you can put many labels on it, but it's all the one thing that is taking us out of this present reality with all of the undesirable traits and characteristics of the old human. And of course, any of those attributes that are from the fear, acts, reactions, emotions. So that is part of the mastery. But I'll stop there and we can get into your questions if you wish. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Okay. Right, Brother Rick, the first question, how does transitioning from service to self to service to others in the ascension process influence an individual's interactions and relationships with others?
Well, thank you, and an excellent question. This overall ascension involves, let's say, everything imaginable in the human consciousness, every belief system, uh, every way of acting, and what have you, needs to be purified. And when I say purified, it needs to be purified of all of the selfish things. So in the beginning, the service to self is to begin to work on self. So you can say it's a good selfishness, and some even become a recluse to society, and they must go into their own place to do this mastery, and that occurs as well. It becomes more prolonged and more delicate for ones that are, let's say, unable to do that, to be able to detach from society to get the silent place. So, what you will find with the evolution of consciousness is those that are able to get some sort of a seclusion will advance typically more so than those that are still working or what have you. So, with this in understanding everything involved, um, it's all inclusive. It is very intricate and detailed, but yet we can keep it as simple as we can, so ones can navigate through their processes much quicker. Yet you could say one of the things that I do, or you could probably put this label on it, that I am also a divine anthropologist, meaning when I put the word divine in front of anthropologist, what I'm speaking about, not only do I read the body language, I read the energy and I read the emotions, I read all of the levels where one is at when I need to. So, with this, not only are you reading body language, behavior, what is coming out of the mouth, what they are speaking, how they are speaking, if it's a superficial spiritual knowledge that's not embodied yet, because you evaluate where one's at with that process, and also reading the energy. So, this is what you call divine anthropology, if you will. So, having said this, it's quite different because it's adding this extra element into the equation at evaluating one. So, it's giving you more tools to assess one. And what it does, it assists you, if you will, in being more able to advance one in their consciousness, because you got an overall reading of them and you know where you can best accommodate and empower one. Now, I'll read your question here. So you say, how does transitioning from service to self to service to others in the ascension process influence an individual's interactions and relationships with others? Well, what occurs basically when one begins, let's say, when one awakens and they begin the phase one of their service to self, what occurs is their perspective begins to change and they begin to be subjugated with different experiences. And some of these experiences can be quite abnormal to what they were humanly used to. And in this phase of phase one, it'll be with all of their relationships. Ones will come and go because you are beginning to work on a resonance field, that if the gap gets too far, if you're raising up here onto a different frequency in a different timeline, and if a family member is not, the gap will get too wide with that. But also on a higher divine level, it's ensured for the immediate soul growth that this does occur. Because when one is advancing, you don't want a lower consciousness, one and a lower conscious energy into the field of influence of this one that's advancing. Preferably, when one starts their journey, and the old analogy, when the student is ready, the teacher arrives, which is very true, to uplift, support, and to keep the soul going forward, not only in their soul growth, but their consciousness, because through they are subjugated with unique interactions and relationships with others. So once they become aware, once they are awake to know that an ascension is occurring, and that they have begun their purity and their spiritual journey to that effect, then they are to know that everything that happens in their reality can be looked at as a subjugation by their soul as well, from their subconscious co-creation place, that the soul in their reality will set up different experiences for the soul to begin to master that. And when the soul masters through the experiences, it leaves a conscious memory of that mastery in the consciousness. So once that mastery is there, how they learn to master their relationships and interactions by not using any of the fear spectrum, once they do this, then it begins to be embodied down into the heart, into the base of the soul as a knowing. Then their outward actions and behavior begins to change. So very quickly, for example, one thing what I look at when I divinely need to assist one is their level of kindness. How are they acting towards others outside? Are they attacking ones that they don't know? Is the darkness or the light? Because there is two things: the darkness and the light. So you look at their demeanor and their behavior, and you also, one very important thing to look at is if ones tend to separate. And if they have a substantial reason, then when they begin to separate, yes. But if there's no apparent reason, then there are different things involved that one will look at. But overall, it also needs to be appreciated that there is a divine plan that is occurring that regulates everything upon the planet and even the consciousness, and also to what will occur with placement of ones that play, let's say, higher roles in this ascension and assisting humanity. So there's all these unique experiences that is really, it's for training purposes, divine training purposes. So from the now viewpoint and looking back, you may not see yet what it was all for. However, as you keep going forward, your consciousness opens up, your perspective broadens, and then you realize and you see that yes, there is actually something going on here that is beyond human. And you also realize that you're able to, by going through your process, you are able to see things differently, but also your parapsychological abilities, your ESPs, if you will, that you begin to discover by doing the purity. With your empowerment, you are also activating these parapsychological gifts that you have, like manifestation, telepathy, and also affecting creation. But the reason for this, why one must go through this very, how will I say it, very important and sometimes divinely stringent path of purity is because the super consciousness that you are coming into, and the power that is associated with the super consciousness ability, there is great responsibility that comes with this. And what comes with this is, like you have in the first of the show, do no harm. So you need to get rid of all of the fear aspects in you and actions so that you don't do any harm. You cannot become a powerful co-creator if you're still able within you to attack ones unprovokedly, unprovoked, and all of these certain old things. Because up here in the super consciousness, in the new reality, you don't have these old negative emotional acts. You have the higher love, harmony, beauty, joy, bliss, all of the desirable actions and uh, all of the actions and characteristics of an advanced super consciousness humanoid. There is no barbarism. There is no primitive. There is no primordial fears or evil that resides up here. So you got to be cleansed here. You cannot go up here if you are not cleansed, and that's what this is about, the purity. So, so as you master what you're asking here through the experience of relationships and interactions, as you begin to apply the virtuous actions and emotions to these, you will excel and advance up the ladder. But by applying the virtue, which is the purity, which is essential to everything, with the overall ascension and also super consciousness, the more that you accomplish this empowerment with yourself, again, it opens up the consciousness to different miraculous, profound, multi-dimensional experiences, which then instills in the consciousness through the actual experience that it is real. It gets embodied, it goes into the knowing, which eradicates the doubt that um, you are able to be part of these miracles, and you're able to co-create them to some degree. So that was kind of long-winded, perhaps, but I'll stop there on that one. Thank you for allowing me
Thank
to
you.
expand.
Thank you. Thank you. Right. Next question. Right. How can individuals recognize and overcome the limitations of their lower ego during the realization phase to ensure continual growth in consciousness?
Thank you. You know, one of the simple ways is do not be fixated upon certain beliefs that are out there. And again, the answer is always to keep neutral and open minded, and do not draw conclusions on any storylines or truth. And what I've said in the post, again, the last part of the post, what you had read, is to keep it simple, is to know that you are a spark of prime creator, that you are here, but you want to go up here in the new reality where prime creator is at, and you have more of your gifts. So to do that, because you're becoming a stronger conscious co-creator, you don't wish to be energizing storylines that disempower or restrict or limit you. Because the moment you do that as a conscious co creator, that you believe limiting stories like Anunnaki or a huge war that took away your ability, when you begin to energize that, you begin to limit and restrict yourself. So you want to be one lifeline right to the invincible, omnipotent creator, and you follow that straight and narrow course. And this way you're able to navigate in a straight line instead of going over here, then going over there, and going in loops. So with your question, how can individuals recognize and overcome the limitations of their lower ego during the realization phase to ensure continual growth in consciousness? So, again, at that phase, when you have done enough of your mastery and realization that you are at the awakened level to at least know that there is a void the universe, and that you are connected to the universe and you are able to marginally command the universe, it's at this point that you need to realize that you also can think you're God at that point. But what I'm saying, this is when you call it the lower ego, when you think you are God, that you are the only creator of your reality. This is when it can become restrictive. You need to recognize if you were God simply, you would not be here in this reality doing this. So simply, this says, no, you're not God. There's something else up above. But it is good to believe you are a God and a goddess in a good, humble way, and that you are going to the place where all the gods and goddesses are at. So this is a one way to do it, to assist yourself in navigating higher. But what we find is that at this middle phase, phase two, that ones will get there, and it's what I call sitting under the tree. Where ones think they can just sit under a tree and manifest reality, manifest abundance. But the reality is most, almost all will find that you cannot manifest abundance, great abundance for yourself, because that is a selfish act. So you will realize and be humbled at that point to realize that you can only manifest what you need, because this is in alignment with virtue and also the good attributes that is coming next of selflessness, the service to others, which then begins to empower you even further. And the reason why this is happening is because you're a powerful co-creator. And as I said again, to advance into super consciousness and to advance into everything good, you need to be purified and divinely disciplined here. So if you begin to try to manifest out of greed abundance for yourself, it will implode and it will not work. And you see with things like The Secret, the book, The Secret, actually what these are and is an abuse of power for this very time, because the entire energetics, it's set up upon the planet to be the service to others, to create the good community. So anything for the self is not, for the most part, energetically supported. Now, this is a general rule of thumb, because there is, if you will, exceptions to that, and it has to be, meaning that there may be, or that there is, a few wealthy ones that are there to serve an important role with this overall divine plan. So they are put in a place of humility and discipline with wealth, but to do all the good things with it. So there are ones that are strategically, divinely positioned as well to facilitate the growth of humanity. And without these unique ones, and there's very few, but without the support from that, because of the delicate situation we are in, uh, we cannot have all crashing with, let's say, put into great stress and no financial support to alleviate them to be able to sustain at least a level that they don't go into fear and get blinded, that their consciousness keeps opening up, and that they do have always a sense of reprieve, of putting their head at least above the water to know what's coming in the future. So without a direction, if you will, and without a great hope, there is no movement forward. So it's all divinely orchestrated to facilitate that. So again, to overcome the limitations of the lower ego with this, in respect of what you're asking, in the realization phase, So, as an example, one may come to that place where they're one with the universe and begin to manifest, but very quickly they'll be rustled out of that place as well. And this is where they begin to realize that they are a co-creator of reality, but there's many more like them. And at this phase, then they understand by using their divine abilities they have so far, and by doing everything what they thought was right, they come to find out no, that there is a reason and a purpose at being at this level, and that there has to be something more, because this is not making sense. If they were the omnipotent co-creator of their reality, their world should be reflecting what they want. But what they begin to see, no, it's not. If they need something from the store, it's expensive. They don't have money. They may see children that are starving, people asking for money on the street. So they find they cannot escape the full reality. And it's because they are only part of a whole that are doing that here. And then it comes the realization, then they say, I got to do something. I got to assist others in whatever way. I have to assist humanity as a whole. I have to change this reality. So they say, I am now endowed with the level of consciousness which is above human capabilities. So they know they have these special tools, but they also begin to know they have them for a divine reason, which is beyond what humanity may think, and it's beyond what the limited consciousness could ever anticipate that they would have these abilities. So then they realize there is a reason for them being able to experience the beauty of able to manifest a little bit. But then they discover they must drop the restrictive ego, the limited ego. Then they must unite with more of their brothers and sisters and more of the divine ones upon the planet. And then they begin to discover through this unity that their synchronicities and their miracles begin to abound and proliferate. And by them seeing this and experiencing that, it then again instills into the consciousness the confirmation that then becomes embodied, and that they begin to join in unity with their brothers and sisters without ego stopping them from doing so. And they are open to listen, at least to their other brothers and sisters, because the messages that come in are all layered, if you will. And the whole game upon the planet is designed that it takes the unity to unlock the pieces. And it's been divinely made like this, that not one has all the pieces. And I know this, and I know this fully, even though I say and I proclaim, which is true, that I am the Son of God. I am still here on the planet, and with my humility, I know that the great wisdom comes from listening to others as well, because others are all planted here with parts of the puzzle. And the only way to advance yourself out of this reality is you create yourself out of here, but in unison with all of the rest, because the overall advancement in consciousness and the ascension, which is the same thing, this is what it takes. We are evolving a world, and it takes all of the co-creators to facilitate that. And it's all divinely orchestrated at this time to do so. So the darkness, if you will, over the last 3 years was allowed to set the stage for ones to actually see what is moral and what is right. So more quickly, they're able to discern to make the higher choices. So it's all part of their process. But the beauty of it, what has happened in the last 3 years, it is for the masses. And right at this time, I love to say 90% of the masses know, that the old reality, there's something very wrong with it in the least. So it's all set up and designed this way. So, yeah, to ensure continual growth in consciousness, these few things, as I said, you've got to go into the now place. You've got to recognize that you're not the only god or goddess there, that there are others, and you have to unite is the best way, and in your humility. But do not let humility restrict and refrain you from speaking your truth as well, in the truth what you know as the universal truth. Because what we actually require upon the planet, which is occurring, is ones with their divine delegation and whatever divine authority they may have, to stand up. You need to be seen. You cannot be in the closet. You're here at the point of service to others. This is when you stand up and you shine in your great modesty, your great compassion, but yet you don't let any of this also limit you. So there is a great discipline in how you utilize these great gifts, and how you put them all together to navigate forward with. For an example, being fully open, Barrett, I could live in this world just so beautifully on my own and in abundance. But truthfully, it's not what I'm here upon the planet to do. And this is why I continue to do what I am to do as per divine instruction. And there is very little that Rick does in a day that is from Rick's choice, what he would want to do. I'm divinely instructed and I stay with it and do it. All right, thank you. I think I answered that, hopefully.
Thank you very much, brother. You certainly did. Thank you. Bless you. Okay. The third question: how can you explore the concept of truth evolving and how it impacts an individual's journey through the different phases of consciousness in the ascension process?
Well, very simply, what I like to use, and in this great time, because it's a perfect example, is the Great Awakening. When one awakens, and there's so many examples of that right at this time. So this is a great example of truth evolving, because you were down here in the matrix and you thought, you knew things might have been corrupt and what have you, and it wasn't feeling right. But then you awaken to more of the truth, to know that yes, all of this was a deception and a lie by the darkness, if you will, to just put it point blank. So when you awake to that, you realize that you have just evolved into at least a higher truth, but you have evolved into the truth. So this is just when you are awakening. But again, this is your first inclination that truth changes. And as you go higher and empower yourself, once you awaken and you begin your inner work process, what you begin to see and have is different experiences that support that this is true, to keep propelling you forward and uplifting you in consciousness. So everything is in conjunction, and it all works together with it. Meaning, again, going back to what we said earlier, the experiences are so important to instill the faith in yourself, the trust in yourself, and also the trust in the unknown, the uncharted waters you are going into. But without that faith and trust, you don't go into them. So you need it, and you get that faith and trust and through the confirmations of the experiences to keep you going forward, because it's forward that you keep advancing the levels of truth, and it's your direction where you need to go. So yes, your journey is impacted, and again through the different phases of consciousness. Again, to describe it, it's like playing a video game that you keep mastering the levels until you win it. And this is a great analogy of what we're doing here. So when you begin a level of a video game, you don't know how it's going to go, how it's going to end, but you go into it and you have that conviction and determination to beat that level so you can get to the next level. So that's what this is about as well. So you have the divine incentive that is instilled within you that you can't ignore because it's coming from the soul place. And the soul has the priority over what you do, meaning that it will not let you rest unless you go forward in your journey. But there is variations with unnecessary things that ones don't need to endure as well. And this is why upon the planet there is ascension guides and teachers that assist with this. If one gets a little bit too far off from the side, then a teacher will appear or a guide to get them back in alignment and come forward, with this. Because again, one that gets to the side, they are important to the whole. And if they remain to the side, they will stagnate the whole of us. This is why it takes the unity and also at times being our brothers and sisters keepers to ensure that they are uplifted and that when they need a hand that we are there, when they are open and receptive to receive it. There are times that occurs that we cannot, that they must be where they're at, that they're unreachable. But this is for a higher divine purpose, or if you will, it's the soul's contract. And that with universal divine law, we're not allowed to intervene. And with these sort of things, this is me with my great heart and my divinity of what I am, that I don't like to see one separated. We are all family and we should be together as family. But these odd occurrences do occur. And as a whole, as well, what is written, which is true, what Jesus said, where two or more gather, the miracles begin to abound and occur. Because what you're doing when you're united in harmony with your brothers and sisters, you are also in alignment uh, with pure co creation, and you are connecting more deeply with it, and you are actually commanding it in good ways to produce the good things. This is why it also takes the unity to do this. So you don't want to have a brother co-creator that's over creating banks or other systems that only a few will profit from, for example, because that's out of an alignment where we're going. We are going into equality, harmony, prosperity, and what have you. Great, thank you.
Thank you, brother. Fourth question: how does the embodiment of the highest virtues during the service to self-face facilitate lifting the veil to a higher consciousness?
Well, this is the period when, in the service to self, where one gets the opportunity to reflect back upon their memory bank of their past actions, also to begin to feel the guilt, the shame, which is um, the lower density emotions, to feel that if they did something like that, if they used to lie. But in that process of doing the service to self, the inner work process, then they'll know no, no longer can they lie because it is deception. And to lie, it is negatively oriented with density that acts like an anchor. And with this, also, if they continue to lie, their energetic field becomes polarized negative, that they begin to attract more of the same, but at many multiples. So if they begin to lie, for example, if they don't change, what they'll begin to see is that all they'll be attracting is lies from other, and they won't get any direction, just as an example. So this is part of why one has to clean up their inner act, and they have to be the most moral, loving, good, good intent, always one in this phase. And as they begin to do that, because they're doing what is in alignment with God, all things good, and the good direction going forward, the more they come in alignment with the purity and the uplifting good morals and virtues, then it begins to open up more of their consciousness. And then they begin to say, okay, I see now, if you will. So again, it's what occurs. So just looking at exaltate, lifting the veil. So yeah, as you advance on your inner journey and begin to do things right, then what happens is the veil, if you will, of forgetfulness, the veil that deprives you of your divinity, it begins to lift up, and your perspective changes, and you begin to bring in more of your soul's divinity, your placement in the divine realm of all things, and of course, your divine power and your super consciousness that is beyond, again, any of the human consciousness. But also, what you begin to do is you begin to access information from, let's say, the other dimensional realms. So you begin to, one can say you begin to channel, but really what is occurring most of the time is as you advance forward, you are unlocking from your soul the information, and it's putting it in your consciousness. So you are the key, each one, to unlocking yourself and your advancement. And the way to do it is the purity. And this is why one of the things which does hold true in the Bible, when Jesus would say, I am the way, what he meant by that is be like Jesus, and that is the way. And that's what's occurring. Do everything right, keep connected at least to God. But we are now in a time where what Jesus had said back then, for many, you can use that as a foundation that got us to where we're at now. But to evolve in consciousness, you need to be open to read things, what was said back then, if they're useful, from a higher perspective. And you need to look at how things were purposely, metaphorically said, and how Jesus had to use parables back then to explain the higher consciousness. So he had to create the example for ones to be able to see better what he was saying. But nevertheless, this is held prevalent through time. But again, we are now in a different time where, let's say, at least the last couple thousand years, or what is supposedly recorded as that, has given all of the instruction the value to be taken from those, not only Jesus, from Buddha, from all of the religions, prophecies. There's value within it all. What is customized to the individual that it resonates with them to develop a perspective to advance them forward. And this lifts the veil, and it's done in many different ways. Yeah.
Thank you for that, brother. Right. Fifth
Welcome.
and last question. What strategies or practices can individuals adopt to maintain openness and neutrality in their discernment as they navigate the realization phase and beyond?
Well, when we look at one, when they're in, let's say, the intermediate realization phase, at that time they have accomplished many things along their journey, and they have also gathered many tools that they can utilize to, let's say, bring themselves into the peaceful now moment. Many through meditation, different healing techniques and modalities. Yoga Nidra is very beautiful. Some go into the past life regressions, but what I tend to say is your best tools is to be in the now, because you're creating in the now in the future. And if you put your consciousness on the past, you can create looping scenarios for you, because your energetic focus will be on the past, but then it's coming into the consciousness, having a place, and you'll begin to create these scenarios back out into your reality. So at this point, it becomes a great discernment with keeping your consciousness as clear and aligned with where you want to go. So you can begin to use your different tools and practices that facilitate this. But importantly, also, as a co creator, to create something in your future, you need to begin now. That's where your creation begins, is in the now. So if you want to create something good in your future, you need to create it from here. And by speaking out loud, everything is frequency, everything is energy. And whatever you speak out, it depends upon the purity of your inner work you have done to how effective it will be in reality. So we are not in the same place we were 1 year ago. We're always going into a higher frequential reality and vibration, meaning that this is becoming clearer, more pure, and that if you're to regurgitate some old things out in here into this reality, it'll begin to drop your vibration, drop the conscious veil, and what have you, because the overall energetics upon the planet is set up to only accommodate the good way forward to advance humanity out of savagery into civility. So anything adverse to that, it will attract many of the old things. So, and we don't want that. That's not the world we're creating. So ones will learn their lessons from that, where they are inundated with a multitude of these like density acts, reactions, and emotions. And they will incur suffering that is, if you will, it's created from their self. And you could say it's the wrath of God, but really they activate the wrath their self by doing, they're judging their self by their actions. And that's what, we use the judgment days. What occurs in this, each one judges their self, where they're going into the higher timelines, or if they're going to remain in the lower timelines, always fighting to survive and struggling. They all have a choice, but the choices is based on their choices and to do the right things, excel and advance ones forward. Um, so, basically and essentially, the practices are do everything right, do everything moral, do not be deceitful, practice all of your virtues, and and by doing this and knowing that you are no longer what you would call human, that you are now embracing and integrating your divinity, it means all the rules change. So you need to be aware and astute in your reality of what's occurring and always choose to do the right things in that reality. And with this, it can be, as I said, it can be tricky as well. So um, you need to enhance more of your discernment, and the more that you do that without being negatively judgmental, by being more neutral, then you're able to see more clearer. Now, very importantly, with trust, this is an important example. If someone is mistrustful of another, and because they may feel to mistrust another, if they put up a wall against that, well, what occurs is that they could be prolonging something good. So, what I teach is you trust everyone and go into everything until you may get your own evaluation or judgment or discernment why maybe you don't want to be part of that one. But the thing is, you always have to come from a place of trust to get the utmost discernment and evaluation. Is that one a minion? Is it dark? Or are they light? So this way you get it quicker. But if you put a block up and a separation, if you will, you prolong knowing the truth. And this can be restrictive also to your growth, because it'll begin to separate you from your brothers and sisters. And then when you begin to separate, the spiritual ego will come in, because then you'll be in alignment with other disempowering narratives that will keep you limited, because you enter that information stream of truth where it does have its limitations and restrictions, and it will begin to control you and your consciousness and your actions. Now, it's very important upon the planet also what there is an actual darkness. There are the nefarious ones. And one of the things they did in the past, and I say it in the past because we're breaking it down daily with it. And just today I put out a post, a very important divine co-creation activation to break down more of the brainwashing. See, upon the planet, the darkness would utilize EMFs, or because they knew simply when you got two cell phones that can communicate around the world without any wire, it shows you that there is an information energetic stream that is there. So by knowing this, also they would, let's say these are some of the brainwashing techniques just to keep putting into the energetic atmosphere negative things that would begin to be picked up by ones as their parapsychological gifts like telepathy began to evolve. And it's at this point where you need to use the utmost discernment. If a thought comes into your head, you need to identify, is it actually coming from you, or is it coming from a projected source to do this? And when I say a projected ill intent source, because there are these energetic projections that are put out there. And I spoke about a little bit about another thing that occurs, what DL Zeta, a great channeler, what she had, I think it's her that coined the term, negative thought viruses, where all of a sudden you can have a beautiful brother or sister and you don't do anything to them, but all of a sudden they turn against you for no reason whatsoever and they become negative. These are what you call projected negative thought viruses, and also in alignment with MK Ultra that actually operates on certain frequencies. So when you have, let's say, an MK Ultra that's operating on 111 frequency, and if you are up here on 222, well, you're above it. It cannot affect you. But if you get lowered in vibration down to 111, then it can begin to subjugate you and control and manipulate your thoughts. And this is why it's so important not to um, be limited by any limited beliefs. You need to keep open and keep connected to source so that you don't go through these unnecessary pit stops and limitations which can stagnate your growth. 1 second. So these things are very real, what I just touched on, and these are also some of the devices that we're consciously, energetically taking out of play so they're not influencing and separating the masses, if you will. So by us doing the actual activations, it is the conscious remedy to take these disempowering things out of play. So we also do it through, as conscious co-creators, then we create a safer, good space for the consciousness to go into, where they can begin to be more freer and to become more empowered. So we consciously take these things, these nefarious devices and electromagnetic structures, we take them out of play. And I, for one, with others, we are able to do this because once you have enough purity, you are able to access the molecules of creation at the most minuscule level. And it's in there you begin to command with goodwill at doing your divine work these particles at what to do and to become in alignment with the good where we're going. So when anyone does activations, goodwill activations, they are also purifying the energetic environment as well and uplifting it. So when you see worldwide, many, they'll say, oh, running around doing activations and what have you. No, it's very important because your energetic field, you are an electromagnetic being, and your aura, your energetic field, has the polarity of what you are. So when you are the positive, pure polarity and you geographically interact upon this planet with another electromagnetic area, which all of the planet is, you begin to reconcile it to the positive and to upgrade the energetic particles of reality, which then begins to exclude the lesser desirable negativities out of it. And then what you'll see, for an example, let's take a little hill. If someone that is purified has been going there consciously energizing the hill with good vibration, there will be no bad that can happen on the hill because it's not negatively set up for it. And what you will actually find when someone goes there later, they'll be uplifted or have a miraculous good experience because the energetic environment is set to facilitate only the good and the pure things. And this is why worldwide, everyone that is running around called to go to Egypt or the crystal bids in Arkansas, they are doing divine work that needs to be done to facilitate the whole. So we all work together to take us up to this point where we have the planet entirely cleaned energetically of any negative deposition, and then we put only the good things in reality, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, brother. Thank you very much. That was divinely placed, and really appreciate as ever what you put out there, brother. So, I mean, maybe we'll begin to wrap up the show, brother Rick.
Yeah, the throat's getting a little bit raw again, and Father has me limited the last week on how much I can speak. The throat
Absolutely.
gets usually sore in the evening. It's a good
Yeah.
thing because then I'm not as working divinely as much with messages. So it's, but also to give the truth, my vocals and the energy that is coming through these vocals has to change now in very good ways for what we are on the threshold of and what is coming. Yeah. So it's for divine reasons, the physical vessel is being upgraded, and especially with the vibration of the voice.
Thank you very much, and all to our beautiful viewers out there. Thank you for joining us as well with Brother Rick, and sending lots of love and harmony, and bless you all. I mean, that's blessings from us all. Thank you, brother. Really appreciate everything that you do.
Love, light,
Peace.
gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bioactivator would like to thank you for your kind support and donations. Through Barrett Tunian's guardianship of this platform, his activation of truth harmonizes, neutralizes, and unblocks the meridians that connect, balance, and purify all that comes in contact. Do no harm is the key that fully opens the heart's voice to be in the union of the I Am presence, and will represent every living organism on the planet whose voice would otherwise not be heard. Remember, the truth will set you free. Do no harm, cause no loss, and do not impose upon the freedom of others. Love, light, and